playing in the sand. For most, it's fun down by the seashore, building sandcastles, or maybe a little two-man volleyball. But for the motorhead, it means building a beach and then kicking sand in your face. Hemi-powered, big tires blazing, their idea of beach blanket bingo is this magic carpet ride. Coming up next, we'll see who plays the hardest in this sandbox. Today is a big day of firsts here on Trucks and Tractor Power. It's the first time we've ever been in Michigan, the center of the automotive universe. We're at Kalamazoo, Michigan, at the Kalamazoo County Fairgrounds for the Great Lakes Nationals. And as you can see by my blue shirt, you also have a new host. Hi, I'm Tom Rivers. Thanks for watching today. I'm excited about this TNN Motorsports assignment. The biggest first, though, is that we've added a new wrinkle to the sport of mud racing. Sand will replace mud in the pit. Now, you're still going to see a lot of the same NMRO racers we've seen over the years here on Trucks and Tractor Power, like Fred Wilhite in the Money Pit. But as far as today goes, I guess we'll be calling them sand draggers. Now, let's see if everybody's ready. Chad, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. Jenny, are you ready?
Yeah, baby, I love this.
Okay, for more on today's action, let's go to Army Armstrong. Army?
Hey, Tom, welcome aboard Trucks and Tractor Power. Good to have you on board. Changes the drivers will have to make in order to adjust to the sand are as follows. You'll adjust the four-link bar to get the right angle. You'll come up here and you'll get a softer spring on the shock absorber here, okay, to let the car squat. You can go into the third member in the rain gear and pinion area and change the gear ratio. Plus, the drivers are all saying you're going to have to run more air in the tires because when you go to the starting line in sand, you know you're going to be able to plant the horsepower. It will bite you up there. Knowing you're going to need more horsepower, a lot of the drivers are making major changes in the engine compartment in the form of the blower. Look at the pulley I'm holding in my hand, how much larger it is than the pulley that is on the vehicle now. Keep in mind, the smaller the pulley, the faster you turn the motor, the more air goes in, the more fuel you can mix, and the more horsepower you make. Basically, what I'm saying is you wind them tight to go 180 feet.
There's a look at Jeremy Finley, driver of the S-Kicker, his last Class 5 win coming at Essex Junction, Vermont, a year ago. Prior to the race, we got a sampling of opinion from some of the drivers, like Mike COMELLA in Bonkers, about the new surface and how it would affect the racing today.
We do a lot of sand racing indoors all winter long, and sand a little easier to control the car, and it's not as hard on parts. You know, you're not getting airborne as much, not over revving the motor, and it seems to be a nice smooth ride. I think we're going to see some fast times this weekend.
You don't have the mud and stuff spraying in your face, and you get a little more bite on the line, and you need a little more power down the end.
The cleanup is almost zero, and the hook is almost double. It's pretty neat.
On the sand, we run it all winter, so now we're pretty much coming out the outdoors, 180 feet. Usually indoors, I carry the front end, the whole length of the track. Now I'm hoping I don't do a wheelie all the way. Might catch the lights in my back tire, or I might flip it all the way over, so we're going to have to see what happens today.
There you have it, Army. We heard it straight from the driver's mouths.
They all like the sand.
You'll see Mike COMELLA pulling up to the sand pit here. It's very similar to the mud pit, 180 feet in length. At just over 18 feet in width, though, it's about 3 feet narrower than the mud pit.
Now, COMELLA rolls into the starting line with a 509 cubic inch big block Chevrolet. He knows what it's like to win. He's found a combination. He has stepped up into the upper echelon of the sport. In the other lane, meanwhile, you got the Behrman brothers coming out.
Mike Behrman in the far lane, COMELLA in the close lane to the camera.
Whoa, COMELLA almost high-sized that rascal in the shutdown area. So I'm impressed. My first shot on sand, DQ'd. He ran out of bounds.
And Behrman's got a 2.472, which is quicker than we normally see.
You know, all the drivers were telling us as the replay comes up that you can stick the horsepower. That's exactly what he does. All four corners stick, then it drifts to the left. He does a wheelie. He did everything he possibly could do to get through that run, and still was disqualified.
Let's send it down to Army, find out what happened there.
From our viewpoint, it looks like he actually had it up on two wheels.
Yeah, I did. It got a little bit out of shape, and it came up on its side. I thought we were going to go over, and I just had to drive it. Just glad it stayed upright, man.
Boy, he almost got airborne there, and I know he's glad he wasn't, but there is some airborne action here at Kalamazoo today.
Yeah, he wasn't the only guy to get a little air underneath him. There's a great air show going on. We're all kind of kicking back and watching. That's an F-16 working out right there. God love them, yeah.
It's beautiful.
And a stealth bomber. We can even see this one. They painted it black so you can see it, Tom. Oh, rock and roll. Man, that guy is in heaven, and the fans are loving every bit of it. Welcome to Kalamazoo. See, you got a B-52 that made a flyby for us, so plenty of action today. Plus, they didn't forget the vets from WW2. They're heading towards Normandy.
Welcome back. There's one youngster traveling in style. Now let's send it back to my friend Army.
Hey, Tom, I noticed something on the front of the vehicle today that all the blown guys are running. They're called limit straps right here. What it is, you notice the slack? Well, that will let this front end drop this much before it tightens up. What that's going to do is cause these guys to drop the front ends out from underneath them and then go into those wheelies we've been hearing about all day long with the big horsepower motors. Back to you, Tom.
Thanks, Army. Back on the line, you'll see Brian Fry in Midnight Special in the near lane. One thing we want to mention, we talked about the length of the pit standard. We talked about the narrower width. It's also 18 inches deep at the start and narrows up to 12 at the end. He's going to be racing Jeremy Finley. The time to beat, 2.472.
And believe me, Finley is capable of doing it. Matter of fact, both drivers can bump this number. 18 inches. Why is it thicker on the start line? Real simple. That's where they're going to be digging it up more.
Yeah.
It does taper to that 12-inch depth.
Boy, they are tearing through the sand. I don't know if that's going to beat the fast time on the track. Jeremy Finley gets a 2.54, and I'm getting word that Brian Fry ran a 2.85.
Both good numbers, but Finley capable of going much quicker. We're going to watch a replay. All four corners plant, but about the 150-foot mark, something happened to the vehicle and instantly killed his horsepower, Tom.
Let's see if we can find out exactly what it was. Army, can you find out?
Jeremy, the car sounded real good, and all of a sudden shut off. What happened?
Bottom blower pulley exploded. Broke off.
Okay, now what he's talking about, I want to take the camera and go down here. You have a top blower pulley, an idler pulley, and there's a bottom pulley that normally sits here. He literally exploded that bottom pulley. Remember, we were telling you the size of the pulley indicates the amount of force that you're expecting out of your blower. He had this thing on kill in order to make that thing explode like that. Tom?
Thanks, Army. Fred Wilhite in the money pit, obviously one of the best names in this sport, pulling up to the line now from Decatur, Illinois, but every event he goes to, he's a player. We've had two passes so far. We've seen a wheel stand out of the near lane and a blower pulley come off in the far lane. Rodney Covington also pulling up in Mud Rat. He's from Sykesville, Maryland.
Covington runs a Chrysler Hemi-powered vehicle, very successful in drag racing. In the far lane, a 48 Fiat out of Decatur, Illinois. The money pit, a Wilhite, it's a Chevrolet-powered vehicle.
Boy, you got the wheel stand again there, didn't you?
Man, I'm liking this sand racing now. Believe me, Wilhite a 246 with a 6.
Rodney Covington not quite as fast. Mud Rat only ran a 2.86.
You know, we're going to go back and show you something interesting. Notice how he lines up halfway in and halfway out of the tracks of the man in front of him to plant the horsepower. Then goes immediately into a wheelie, single wheels it, back pedals, and is back on the throttle again. Kind of like diving off a high board. Once you leave those toesies off the board, you're committed. In the other lane, Wilhite made a real good run. He kept all four corners pretty well planted. And I tell you what, Wilhite, as usual, is a player. 2.466 makes you the man of the day, and you seem to like this sand out here, Fred.
Yeah, Army, it's like we talked earlier, it's some trick stuff. It's great.
It'll definitely hold the horsepower, won't it?
Yeah, it felt like the car was just set up perfect. It carried the front wheels just a touch off the ground, which is ideal. You don't need no big wheelies, and it was in forward motion. I liked looking at the cameramen down there. I went a little farther than I should to give them a scare.
I can assure you he had that cameraman's full attention. Back on the line, Dan Brown in Mind Games. Brown is, of course, not a teammate, but a compadre to Fred Wilhite. Brown went winless in 1995. His last one came at Bloomsburg back in 1994, racing Brian Harold, looking for a new paint job on the Surf Rat, usually one of the better-looking cars on the circuit. And they're going to tear up the sand here at Kalamazoo today.
That was a good side-by-side run. Brown goes a 256 with a 7, again scaring the cameraman. Brian, one of the young guns, ran out of bounds. That's a tough break. Brian and his dad are really starting to make a name for themselves in the sport. Replay comes up on the screen. It's a good drag race, but Brian hooks a rut, gets a little bit out of bounds. He does not backpedal. He stays in the throttle, and that's what cost him. Dan, tell us about the lanes out right now.
Right now, Army, that left lane's nothing there. You get out about half track, you're catching air, and then it's real narrow down on that big end. It's only 16, 18 foot wide, and it's like threading it through a needle down there trying to get through them cones.
Well, you're going to keep threading the needle. You know, in mud racing, they call these groundhogs, but they aren't the only groundhogs in this beautiful country of Kalamazoo. We found some real ones right alongside the track. Take a look at that.
Eddie and Lucille.
They're good animals, aren't they? We'll be back with more in a moment. Greater Kalamazoo Battle Creek area is Cereal City, USA, with the headquarters of both Post and Kellogg's right here. We're at the Kalamazoo County Fairgrounds, and we've discovered 3 things. Number 1, you can't go to the line with an empty tank. Number 2, you can't call a sand drag on an empty stomach. And number 3, there's never a bad time for cereal. So while I sample some of the local favorites, let's turn it back over to Army for more of the action.
Well, from Tony the Tiger to Tommy the Trooper, while you're enjoying your great bowl of cereal, I'd like to steer you over for a closer look at some of the front end of these mud racers. The mud racers are starting to use rack and pinion assemblies similar to those used on stock car racing, and a rack and pinion is in this area here, and they normally run a steering damper to keep the front end from bouncing around. The damper normally is about the size of this piece here. However, if you notice on the mud racers, they've actually gone to full-blown shock absorbers. In this case, on each side, a full shock absorber. And the reason they run the shock absorber is to keep the front end from shimmying back and forth. You got to remember, this car pulls just as hard in the front as it pushes in the rear.
There's Joey Quick. It was his rack and pinion we were just looking at. He's on the line, and he's going to be racing Martin.
Yeah, Tom Martin in the Quaker State Quick 50 Special. Another good side-by-side run.
Yeah.
We're waiting for the time to come up. Martin goes at 2:59. Will not be a player for the lead. Let's see what Joey Quick does. His time's going to come up at a 2:66. So the track's staying good, but not really great.
And here's the guy that's going to have to run on that track, Gary Osteen in the 56 Dirty Bird. Gary with the Lean Cuisine version of the 56 T-Bird. He runs the big Ford horsepower. It'll be a classic fight, Ford versus Chevy. Gary Osteen from Daytona Beach, Florida, in his car, and Jimmy Carr out of Trenton, New Jersey, who's going to be running the big blown Chevy, sitting atop a 23 Altered T. And Army's talking with Tom Martin.
Tom, the number comes up at 2:59. Not going to get you in the top 5, but will land you in that 6th spot right now.
Yeah, you know, we're still struggling with the fuel system. We can't get it to RPM, and we're trying real hard, and we're just sneaking up on it a little at a time.
Back on the line, it's Osteen and Carr. The time to beat again, 2.466.
Whoa, Osteen moved first. Ran strong with the abbreviated version of the T-Bird up 2:57. That's a number. Meanwhile, Carr at 2:58. They were right together.
That was a great race. You saw them, both of them, doing a little wheelie action there, though. That track is just fast.
They're transferring the weight perfect. They're getting light on the front end. Even though all 4 corners are steering, you want to be light on the nose, and that's exactly where they are. He was real light on the nose there, wasn't he?
Yeah. Might want to consider putting something on top of that. Well, you can about to see Keith Berry here in the near lane in one of those Altered T's, such a popular style in mud racing, not only because of the good visibility, but also the chassis design. And Keith in his called Overtime.
Well, the longer chassis seems to work. Fred Wilhite still atop the leaderboard. Behrman, 2, Finley, Brown, and Osteen round out that top 5. In the opposite lane of the 23T you were just talking about, though, is going to be a full-body vehicle. He'll come up on the screen right here. That's Dick CRUM. You're looking at 2 different philosophies here. They run the same class. Everything's the same. It's just one wants to run the full body, which gives his sponsors better visibility. The other one has the open type car. Remember, the time to beat is at 2:46. Whoa!
Wow.
Kind of like the Blue Angel maneuver there. I don't think it was planned, but it looked good.
Well, I thought he was in the tough truck competition there. He might want to consider getting himself in that. Keith Berry ran a 2.6, and speaking of tough trucks, you'll take a look here at Chuck Dunn. He's got a short wheelbase vehicle, an 88 red and white Suzuki he called Butterfly Suzuki, and it just did. We'll see as he rounds the tough truck competition here.
You hear that little 4-cylinder engine really wrapping up. Now, the end of the tough truck is when they make contact with that big old tire. He's going over the loopy-loop portion right now. Boom. The finish line.
Now you see Mike Blackford, an 83 Ford Ranger with the trick off-road suspension that, take a look, did him absolutely no good on this run. He just nosed that one in, and obviously on the left side, you see he's got a real, right side rather, you see he's got a real problem there. It was after the run that we got a chance to catch up with him and ask him about it. Are you going to be able to fix this?
Yeah, we'll be back at 6 o'clock tonight.
Probably get to know your truck pretty well then.
Oh, yeah, we know it real well. It won't be four-wheel drive when it comes back, but it'll be racing.
He's got a 10.5 for style points, though.
John Chandler's got his 78 Ford pickup he calls white trash. I assume he's going to finish the paint job soon. Take a look. I've never seen a garbage truck do that, Army.
Well, I'll tell you what, plus these guys take the rifle rack out of the back for better aerodynamics. Basically what we're saying, they're fun, and these guys are really getting after it.
Yeah.
Vehicle named after your friends in high school, this guy is really running hard.
I'll tell you
Over
what.
the loopy-loos, watch the big tire. He missed it. No, he hit it, yeah.
He got it. He nipped it right on the edge there and had a great time. 21.71.
You know, in the show and shine area, we ran into some tremendous detail. Notice the lettering on one side, exactly opposite on the other. The bed of this truck, it actually looks like some kind of monster is crawling out of the back of the bed. And if you like blue, what can we say about one of the most beautiful supercharged trucks we've seen? Tom found something he really liked.
This is a picture of what Mike Dykema's 1986 Ford Bronco looked like when he bought it stock. In just 2 winters, okay, they were long Grand Rapids, Michigan winters, he's created On the Edge. Mike started with the 3-inch body lift and a 4-inch suspension lift for a total of 7 inches of additional ground clearance. He modified the 351 Windsor to develop 500 horsepower with nitrous. But don't think this one lives on a trailer. Mike drives this truck daily. He assures us he keeps it under 65, though. There's lots of attention to detail. Suspension, drivetrain, and engine are all color coordinated. The interior features 4 Eddie Bauer bucket seats and hand-fabricated overhead consoles. It's topped off with a set of KC highlighters. And check out the custom airbrush scene on the hood of Taz dining on a Chevy piston and ignition system. Now that's attitude.
Stay tuned for more truck and tractor power on DNN.
Before we go to our final pair, let's show you some of the quick highlights. Roger Sherwood in Stressed Out. A nice 2.592 pass out of the far lane. Jack Frost in Insane in the Membrane in the near lane. Good straight run. He clocks a 2.583. And Mike Lane in the far lane with Wicked Sensation. That 2.575, 5th quickest time so far. 3 1/1000ths ahead of Gary Osteen.
And the last pair to roll the line featured Chuck Noll. This guy's a 1995 Class 6 Jamboree paddle tire champion. He's all the way up from South Florida. He would like to win again here today.
He'll be facing Al Jones in the Mud Hen, who makes the tow all the way from Idaho. And Army takes us for a closer look at it.
The Mud Hen of Alan Jones showed up at Kalamazoo with a unique engine setup. Big block Chevrolet, we've seen that before, but look at here. A Whipple supercharger known for making awesome amounts of horsepower, but atop the Whipple is an injector unit that is setting backwards. When asked why he put the injector backwards on the vehicle, he said, hey, the game is only 2 seconds long, is only 180 foot in length. That motor doesn't know front from rear when it comes to making horsepower.
Interestingly enough, the 2 who've come the farthest to get here to Kalamazoo are going to be the 2 that go last.
And they both still feel they got a chance to win this thing. That's what's interesting. That's what's so great about the sand. Whoa, Jones impresses me, Tom.
Wow.
Look at that, a 241. That's quick.
And Chuck Noll with Stepchild at a 2.750.
And the 41 wins it on the last shot of the day.
Wow.
Well, the replay, it was just a perfect run. Look, he just plants it. Not a lot of lift in it. Just making horsepower. Like you said, that motor didn't know which direction it was going, but it was going fast.
Look at the leaderboard. There he is, Al Jones with a 2.41, followed by Wilhite, Behrman, Finley, and Brown. Army?
Hey, congratulations on your first win of the series. Everybody said that you were going to be a player. You just need to find the right combination. I think they dealt that hand to you today, didn't they?
Yes, they did, Arnie. And like I said it before, I got to thank all my sponsors, my mechanics that stuck with me over the last 3 years. We finally got our first win. I'm really happy for Schwing and CPR Concrete Pumps are sticking with us.
So Alan Jones getting congratulated here by Fred Wilhite, who ends up getting edged out by 5 1/1000ths of a second. Jones showing he can play in anyone's sandbox. So I guess now we get to kick back and watch some more of the Kalamazoo Air Show. Army, all in all, I was pretty impressed with the sand pits.
I tell you, just like at the start of the show, all the drivers said it would hold the horsepower. That is exactly what it did. Air show was going on overhead. Kalamazoo is a great place to be this weekend. I'm glad we had a chance to be part of all the action. You know,